Shelby Oaks is the feature film debut from one of the OGs here in the YouTube film space, Chris Stuckmann. I had the chance to talk to him before the wide theatrical release of Shelby Oaks, so this isn't going to be necessarily your typical straightforward review. I'm going to let Chris kind of take over and give you a little bit more context about Shelby Oaks. Before we dive into that, though, here's a little bit of a glimpse of what you can expect.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Paranoids. Today we're taking our first foray into the abandoned town of Shelby Oaks.
I've always been a fan of Chris here on YouTube, largely because he's one of the few people who talks about movies who genuinely loves them. It's very easy in this space to get caught up with being hyper critical, but Chris has always been someone who has been unashamed about just loving movies. Shelby Oaks started off pre-production, getting some crowd funding going, and again, if you've followed Chris, maybe you were a part of that, and that was kind of organized by Aaron B. Kuntz, who hopped on early as a producer here, and they ended up premiering on the festival circuit, actually last year at Fantasia Fest up here in Canada, in Montreal, a very underrated festival globally, premiered there, and then was acquired by Neon. Again, I think that at this point, probably all of you are familiar with Neon. You definitely should be. They are emerging as one of, if not the best distribution companies. They also produce their own films at times as well. Just in 2025, Neon is behind films like Sentimental Value, No Other Choice, The Secret Agent. All three of those probably going to be nominated for Best International Feature. And then they've also hopped on for US distribution for one of my personal favorite films of the year, a Canadian gem, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. So it makes sense that Chris was pretty excited when Neon picked this film up after Fantasia, and he told me a little bit about what it was like working with Neon. Quick note from Adam from the future, being 5 minutes after I finished recording this video. YouTube has a new hype feature, which maybe you can try out. I think it might only be on mobile, but it's supposed to help small channels like mine. So in the spirit of YouTube, if you don't mind hitting that, that would be amazing. But yeah, here's Chris.
Neon's a filmmaker first company. That's actually their motto. Is like, if I didn't want to do anything to the movie, they were fine with the way as it was. You know, they acquired the movie, they bought the movie as it was out of Fantasia. And this was one of the conversations where they were like, look, I mean, we've got time, we got a little extra money. If you want to do this thing you wanted to do, you can. So it was a dream, honestly, to be able to go back to ideas that I had kind of already gone through the sadness of being like, those ideas that were in my head are not going to be in the movie. And you kind of like have to say goodbye to those things until somebody comes along and says, hey, you know, I mean, those ideas are cool and you should do them. And here's a little money to get it done.
I realize that I haven't actually spoken about the general plot of Shelby Oaks, but it follows a young woman named Mia Brennan who is looking for her lost sister. Her sister Riley was a lead member of this YouTube group, the Paranormal Paranoids, who essentially are ghost hunters, and she disappears mysteriously when visiting Shelby Oaks. Mia then gets a hold of some lost tapes of Riley's and is able to kind of put the pieces together and attempt to find her. Shelby Oaks definitely hits those traditional horror beats. There are some monsters here, there's some gore, there is a heck of a lot of suspense, and the film did go through multiple reshoots, primarily after Neon hopped on board. I mean, Chris admits here in this clip that you'll see that they literally had run out of money before Neon came and saved the day.
We ran out of money when we shot the movie in Ohio, truth be told. And we finished the movie and we were proud of the movie. And we debuted it at Fantasia, and it went really well. And Neon acquired the movie, and they read my original draft of the script and found some things in there that I hadn't shot, and they asked me why, and it's because we ran out of money. Gore, creature, animal work, stuff that on an indie film takes forever and is really hard to do and eats away at your schedule. So Neon gratefully gave me 3 extra days to go in and do all of that technical work. We did some dog work, we did some gore, and we had a chance to be able to put things that were in the script back into the movie. And it was really exciting.
As I mentioned earlier, Shelby Oaks does hit those traditional horror beats. And so for a fan of horror, there's going to be a lot here to enjoy. The difficulty with the genre, though, is there's forever this balance between honoring horror films that came before you and honoring those beats, but not allowing yourself to get too much into trope territory. I mean, some of the symbols here are a little bit obvious. We have a lot of use of windows, barred windows, symbolizing confinement, similar with a lot of staircases. Chris really liked shooting through stairwells, again, kind of symbolizing this confined state. We have creepy cellars and creaky floors and a lot of low light scenes. We have things in mirrors, which is kind of fun. Some of them are quite hidden, and that's all well and good, but it does veer into trope territories, and some of the characters do feel a little bit stock character-esque. For example, we have a prison warden who, of course, is pouring liquor into his cup at his desk right when someone arrives. But this is, again, often the case in modern horror. All of that being said, Chris does something here that is quite interesting. He mixes forms of found footage, even a little bit of mockumentary style with traditional horror. And so, of course, I asked him about this process.
And the first initial idea was every time I would watch mockumentaries or, fictional documentaries, I always, in the real true crime shows, they will have dramatic recreations of things they're talking about. You see like the real people on screen, and then you flash to like dramatized versions with actors, and you're seeing sort of it being recreated. And that was the first thing I was like, it'd be kind of cool if we could have cameras in a movie where the characters knew the cameras existed, but then also cameras in the movie where the characters are not aware that the cameras are there. And then it became about, every time I would watch a fictional mockumentary, I would think to myself, man, wouldn't it be kind of fun if we could, like, we're all in on the joke. We know this is a fictional movie, so why can't we just kind of like play around with the structure of it and exit out of it at sometimes and then go back into found footage and then go back to traditional narrative. And then the challenge for me became, can I tell a story that way in a mixed media format, but have it feel linear and straightforward all the way through?
And also within these different mediums or forms, there's a little bit of a meta exploration of YouTube and creator culture, which of course Chris is familiar with. Even in the run up to the film, which I found kind of interesting and actually didn't know about until recently, they even started a YouTube channel that was supposedly these lost tapes from Riley Brennan, and you can still find them on YouTube to kind of set this real world setting of the film. Within Shelby Oaks, Chris tries to explore a number of different themes. The theme that I think I find most interesting is this idea of agency versus control. He more subtly and I think effectively explores ideas of free will and whether when you're within a system, be it family, religion, or otherwise, are you truly acting independently or are you subtly, implicitly, or explicitly being controlled one way or another? He also explores themes of family, which is quite common within horror, but it goes a little bit deeper given Chris's past. as a Jehovah's Witness. And so I asked him both about the use of family in horror and why that seems to be so effective, and also how his upbringing influenced this project.
The things that scare me the most are things that we have in our life that feel concrete or set in stone as being safe, and then finding a way to make you realize that there could be some horror there, whether that's swimming and there's a shark, if it's you're at home and you're safe and people break in. There's this sense of family is supposed to be safe. Family is supposed to be a place where you are your most safest. And when it feels like the family is fractured or there's some childhood trauma, that's when lives can get broken. And you have a lot of people with scars because of that. And so I think that, especially people who are writing or making films are usually not entirely well-adjusted people. There's usually something that we're dealing with, or some past trauma we're trying to work out. There's the element of my sister and her having being disfellowshipped when I was young, and then not seeing her for over 10 years. And obviously Mia in this film is searching for her sister and believing that she's out there. But it's also when you are a part of a very oppressive religion that I do believe today to be a cult, you are in a place where you are controlled and sort of puppeteered by people you never see and people you never meet, who have a lot of power over your life. And there's something about the loss of control over your life that is terrifying to me, because I think all of us like to believe that we're in control of our lives and that we have the ability to make choices and have free will. But if you kind of step back and felt that there was this dark force that's unseen that has been watching you and making sure you go towards a certain direction for your entire life, that feels really terrifying. And so I've approached a little bit of that with Mia in the film, and Riley as well, that there's this presence, this presence that's always been watching them and sort of guiding them towards a dark fate.
Look, at the end of the day, Shelby Oaks doesn't redefine horror. It is not the best horror film of the year, but it's solid, it is tense, it's suspenseful, and I think more important than all of that, it serves as a reminder that you should never stop chasing your dreams. This is something that Chris has been open about for so many years, and being acquired by Neon is nothing short of amazing. So before I end this review, just a couple final words from Chris and what he hopes happens as a result of this film.
I want people to be creeped out and very scared and feel uneasy and unsettled, like it got under their skin. But more so, I really would love young aspiring filmmakers to see the film and think, okay, I think I can make a movie. I think I can go home and start writing. I think I can finish that thing that I've been, waiting to finish, because that would be the best. That's what I'm always looking for when I go to the movies, is just inspiration to go home and start working on a thing that maybe I've been putting off for a while.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to watch the next video when it comes out. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that hype thing if you're on mobile, and have a wonderful, wonderful day, week, month, year, etc. Cheers.